Howdy everyone, Runt9 here, and welcome to the first episode of what I guess we're going to call Season 2, or the permanent season of Nova Drift, here on the Runt9 Plays YouTube channel. I am starting with a fresh save. I learned that the save file is just a single text file, so it's easy to back it up and have a separate save from my personal playthroughs, Steam playthroughs, all that kind of stuff. Stream, not Steam. So we're going to start with a fresh high score table, and we're going to start filling this up. So just a couple things before we get started. One, I am going to record 3 episodes at a time, and that's going to go up Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time every single week for the foreseeable future. In addition, if I am recording an episode and that episode is bad, I'm going to throw it out. And what am I going to consider a bad episode? Well, for one where we have just a whole bunch of bad runs, anything that's under, 200,000. Like if we don't make it to Seraph, I'm going to consider it a bad run. I'm going to do experimentation on my own time, and we're going to consider this a place for not necessarily like competition, but actually putting out good, solid runs. And so it may take me a little bit longer to kind of get into that flow. But what I'm expecting is that I only want to put my best foot forward on these YouTube videos going through, the next few weeks, few months, whatever the case may be. At this point, I see this being, years to come, but obviously you can't predict that far ahead. So Nova Drift is an amazing game. I wanted to give it a permanent spot on the channel, and so that's what we're going to do. So basically, I am expecting to probably have to re-record a couple times as I get back into the swing of things. Let's open with a Thermal Lance run. So I am playing on the new Genesis update that came out a few days ago here in March. Genesis added the Thermal Lance, the Carrier Body, and the Shockwave Shield. So I'm actually going to do a decline gear swap on this one. All right, these guys are a little frustrating to deal with early. Just dodge the laser before we turn on Thermal Lance, and then try to burn them down. Okay, don't get hit by that. We did get hit by that, but fortunately we did start the other dude burning. Throw a little bit of fire at my man's there. So I'm thinking I want to do a typical Rancor run here, but I did find out, we found this out on stream yesterday, that blast radius and rate of fire actually increase the size of the lance. So we do want to make sure we focus on that as well. So right out of the gate here, I don't really want to start with any of those. We're really looking for the stabilization tree, because getting power reserves is pretty much the most important thing early on for getting us out of trouble. So rate of fire, I will go ahead and take, as well as blast radius. I'm definitely going to take obsession here. There's stabilization, and then I think high explosive is a good one here, but I am going to reroll, try to get to that power reserves. We did not get there. I do not know what mod it gave me. Regen is fine, because I actually am perfectly fine picking up shield regeneration here. You can see that our lance is just a little bit bigger now. And the lance being bigger means that it does more damage. As you can kind of see, we're burning him down pretty good. Agility does help. We are also going to end up wanting to get Terminate and Essence Sap for sure. There's power reserves. So power reserves is what makes it to where we can pretty much hold our Thermal Lance on at all times. And that's a huge boost to our damage, especially considering we can get on target better. So there's Terminate, and then we're looking for Essence Sap, and Shield Regen is going to be something of interest, just because it works in combination with shield cooldown to just kind of keep us safe while we are rancoring up and having the biggest and bestest thermal lance you've ever seen. So ultimately, I want to try to put down at least 500,000 score on each run. That's going to be the goal. Whether or not we get there is kind of its own deal, but I think that that's easily within reach. My 2 best thermal lance runs, I think I had a 750k and a 980k run. Earlier this morning, before recording this episode, I had my second 1 million run, this time with what has been dubbed the Big Suck, which is just making the biggest vortex that you possibly can, loading up on blast radius and Rancor and all that good stuff on Vortex. It's just a ton of fun. I ended up hitting wave 200, and I think wave 200 died in about 2 or 3 seconds because I already had a couple large vortexes on the screen. And if you don't know, wave 200 is a Seraph and a Scion at the same time. There's Essence Sap, that's a good one early. Also, we want to pick up Candescence. Thrust is good, but honestly, I don't think it's going to be that great for us. Let's go ahead and grab Agility, though. At this point, you know, obviously picking up Thrust would be beneficial as well since we are rocking the Firefly body. But I don't think that we have to go that tree if we don't want to. Because the problem with unlocking Thrust is now that adds 2 mods into the pool that I don't really care for. And Deadly Wake isn't going to help us that much. And honestly, like, I think with power reserves and rotation, we can swing the Lance around enough where I don't think it's that big of a deal to really need the extra thrust right now. Now, obviously, extra thrust does work with Firefly, but Firefly damage is not our primary source at the moment. Good dodges there, got our shield off cooldown. Gonna grab a sip of water here. So I also found out yesterday, or I guess the day before, maybe yesterday, how amazing Gemini Protocol is. I've been completely neglecting it, but when you start talking about self-damage and trying to ramp up Rancor with something like Dying Star, Gemini Protocol splits that between your hull and shields. I never thought about the fact that Gemini Protocol works on self-damage. But I do think we're going to grab High Explosive here first. I want to keep getting our Lance bigger because that lets us play at range from kind of a safer setup. Don't think any of those help, although Warpath can help a lot. We'll grab Gemini Protocol on this go around. And then there's Candescence that ups our burn damage, and so it makes it to where we can kind of burn these guys down nice and quick like. Easy enough. And so the AoE potential for Thermal Lance ends up actually being pretty good because you just kind of swing it around and let it burn things to death. So we do have Terminate to deal with this guy. We might as well pop an upgrade before we go any further. So Concentrated Blast will increase the damage of our Lance, but lower its size by a good percentage. I don't know if it's actually a flat 30% reduction to the size, but I don't think it's going to be that great for us. Kinetic Boost plus Aegis can end up being beneficial. I really like emergency systems these days. It gives us that little bit of time after our shield blows up where we have that, you know, split second of invulnerability, kind of helps us get back on track. It happens a lot with me with the big mine waves. I'm still not very good at dealing with the giant cluster mines, and you know, that's something that probably one of the biggest things I need to work on is dodging those waves better. So we weren't quite able to burn him down before he got into a second phase. We'll just keep the Lance alive, come back over on this side, and then pop back on this side. Make sure we blow up the ads, and then work our way back around to the last vulnerable spot here. All right, good stuff. Boss number 2 down. I need to look up the names of boss 1 and 2, or actually boss 4 as well, because I know Scion and Seraph. I don't know the names of the other 3 bosses. So we're going to end up taking a lot of unnecessary damage here because we didn't get in there quick enough. So you can tell that we're still not doing as much damage as I would like to do. And that's ultimately a matter of, I want to get to the point where we have Charge Shot and Rancor ticking, as well as... so Aegis is a good call here. I also want to get to the point where we can not worry as much about just dropping some burn damage on and walking away. I think that's something where we're going to look for... probably going all the way down to Purification. That way, burn damage and ignite duration goes up. Ready to dodge. All right, we can go right there. All right, just dodge that. Get out of the way. I saw the comet coming in and just realized it would be in my best interest to drop the Lance. Dodge that. Get in there. All right, so far so good. I feel like this is unlikely to be a really bad heated run, but, you know, it remains to be seen. We are taking a lot of unnecessary damage here. This is actually going kind of poorly. And again, this is what I was talking about, is just we need a little bit more burn damage to be able to tick up on these guys. And so use the Firefly body to our advantage. That helps out a lot as well. So this is a champion version of this guy. I'm going to burn him with some Firefly body. That helped a lot, actually. So I haven't been bumping into the magnitude tree yet because it doesn't help our early lance, but honestly, I think that's going to hurt us in the long run, is we need to get to Rancor sooner rather than later, because Rancor is where it really starts popping. So as I mentioned, I think Warpath is pretty good. The stacking rate of fire ends up increasing your lance size as well. We're going to need max hull to get to absorption anyways. And then let's start working on the magnitude tree. I'm also not against the thought of going the projectile targeting tree a little bit, since we do shoot out some projectiles, and if we end up adding like velocity onto the side, then we might actually end up having the projectiles do more work than I'm used to them doing for us. All right, good stuff so far. Like I said, we are going to need absorption. That's part of how we get to Rancor, so I'm going to go ahead and pick it up. There's no reason not to, plus it'll help out against a little bit of the lower tier damage that we take sometimes. All right, so, and actually, like, it does help against mines as well. So we can burn one of those down quickly enough. Still takes a while to burn these. Well, okay. So our damage is actually taking up pretty good. So this is the Scion. You can tell that our damage just isn't really that great against him yet. I'm not against taking projectile velocity, but I want to get to charge shot sooner rather than later. I mean, even going to pass on emergency systems. I'm going to grab payload so we can get to charge shot. All right, he's going to switch to laser mode. This is where we kind of orbit around him. Keep the lance on him as much as possible. And then here, we can't outrange his spinny pieces. So this is where I get in on him, give him a little Firefly love, and then get out. Probably the best I've ever played that when I have a low damage build for an early Scion fight. Thermal Lance does take a little while to get going if you don't get an early Rancor. And we really have to make the decision, you know, are we going to go Dying Star or not? Dying Star can do a lot of good stuff, but you have to be able to counteract the damage with Essence Sap. And shield cooldown, for that matter. So we've made it into the 100,000s. I think that this is probably still decent enough to put up on YouTube, as we are just kind of starting out with a fresh new save. I don't think it would be terrible to put up just a very mediocre, well, actually, I mean, anything under 500,000 at this point I would consider to be bad. My high score list, I think, was mostly filled with 800, 900k runs. So regression would banish only ally right now, whereas Winnow would banish. The only thing that I would like to keep here would be Adrenal Module and maybe Force Armor. But I think the 7 rerolls would be beneficial. We already have 8 rerolls is the thing. So let's try to get to where we want to be, which is getting charge shot, preferably on this upgrade. Okay, so there's a revelation. That's going to help with probably getting to masochism. I'm going to take emergency systems here instead of using up that last reroll. I just think that's going to be better for us in the long run than using that last reroll and potentially getting stuck with something we don't want. So this is our first Celestial. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep using a little bit of the Firefly thrust damage, since at the moment we don't have a lot of good Thermal Lance damage going for us. Probably going to take more damage here than I would like. Still doing okay. I mean, we're taking some damage, but our damage mitigation seems to be in a decent spot. Channeling gets us closer to core shielding, which if we are going to go Dying Star, you have to go through core shielding. Dying Star on top of Rancor does do some hilarious things. Try to dodge the mines and try not to explode too many of them at once. Taking a lot of mine damage in a very stupid way. Took a lot of unnecessary damage there. I'm glad we picked up emergency systems. That immediately put in some work. Let the shield get off cooldown before we jump back in there. Might go just a little bit of radio silence on this one. All right, we're good now. That's a comet. You want to make sure to pop the missile batteries as soon as they come out before they get too far away. Can really start firing off their large payloads worth of missiles. It was stupid damage. We're in an okay spot. These guys are going to get some shots off. Nope, we were able to kill them just in time. All right, so this is a big railgun one. Just try to whip your lance around and hit as many of them as possible. We took a lot of damage there. Our shield did not completely break. So we need to get to Rancor like sooner rather than later. It's getting to the point where we're not going to beat the fourth boss, or definitely not beating a Seraph with what we have right now. I've got to re-roll that one. None of those are particularly good. So Masochism gets us a lot of global damage increase. Force Armor is going to help here. I think we're going to grab Adrenal Module, though. Shield cooldown is going to be a big pickup for our survivability. We should also grab Corrosion. Juggernaut for the max hull, I don't think is a bad idea here. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and grab Juggernaut. I just think that we need survivability. Since we're not able to get the damage we need, then we might as well just try to be as tanky as possible. Just keeping in mind that, like, there's really no such thing as being completely tanky in this game. Although, the new carrier body does question that thought, because you can get to the point where your shields are being regened very, very quickly. But we are certainly not in a scenario where we are going to be very, very tanky. That's just not a thing right now. All right, there's core shielding. I think I'm going to pick up corrosion here, though. Adding the corrosion stacks seems like it's going to be beneficial. You can see it's already starting to do some good damage because of how often the thermal lance ticks. So against this guy, we're going to try to get around to the side, make sure we can blow up the mines behind him so they don't get in our way, and then just avoid the lasers. Keep the corrosion stacks ticking. Corrosion stacks help a lot against his torpedoes as well. I'm going to hit him with some Firefly Thrust Burn. I know we need to deal with the ads. I'm going to take some bad damage there. Corrosion ended up being a really good pickup for us here, as it turns out. Okay, so Terminate did exactly what it needed to do there, thankfully. But not being able to kill one of those first bosses as quickly as I would like. Like, we really should be able to kill them before they can get a single shot off. We are going to make it to a Seraph at this point, but I don't think that we can beat Seraph unless we get the upgrades we need. Charge Shot and Rancor are going to be of utmost importance if we are going to beat Seraph. That wave 100 is 15 waves away. So Singular Strike actually doesn't help us here. Well, so the thing is, I'm not sure. It does give us increased blast radius, but I think the projectiles, from what I read from the developer, the projectiles are actually the primary weapon. I just realized we already had Obsession, so I didn't need to take Revelation. Because the projectiles are the primary weapon, this focuses on the primary weapon, and so because we have more projectiles, it would actually work against us. Purification, however, is going to help us recover shields for making people burn, and since the primary thing that we're trying to do here is burn damage, Purification is going to be better for us, even though it does lower our weapon damage. Taking a lot of damage here. All right, dodge these projectiles. Good dodge there. See if we can drop some fire. Nope. Bad time to try to drop Firefly body damage on him. All right, now is a good time to do it. Good stuff. Okay, there's Charge Shot, finally. Don't get me wrong, I definitely want to pick up some Solar Hearts as well. The burn damage percentage from that at this point would be fantastic, especially considering that we're going to have Revelation ticking. We still don't have Essence Sap, so our regen is in a rough spot, as you can see. Actually, do we have Essence Sap? We do have Essence Sap. What am I talking about? Never mind. Those comets hurt greatly. That was just a big mistake. I got distracted by the commentary instead of focusing on the game. That was my bad. We took some stupid damage there. But yeah, okay, we do have Essence Sap, and that puts us in a pretty good spot, actually. So this is where Corrosion Stacks help immensely, is against these longer worms and trains. Because it spreads the corrosion stacks onto the rest of the train. So there's Rancor. Now that we've got Rancor, we can really start popping. It's okay if we take some damage from the mines here, because look at the absolute size of that lance. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, go ahead and let a couple of those hit us, maybe. Good stuff. That's actually good for us. Because we've got Essence Sap, we've got some decent shield cooldown. You want to very carefully take a little bit of damage here and there. I do mean very carefully. We'll bump him a little bit, do a small bit of crash damage. Alright, is this a big Celestial? Yep, this is a champion Celestial. I'm gonna bump him once. Okay. Now we're playing with fire. Pun not intended. Have an upgrade ready. So at this point, I definitely don't want to go flash shielding, but I wouldn't mind picking up some energized shields for a little bit more shield cooldown. Does lower rate of fire, but I think I'm okay with that. So Bravado ends up increasing our hull and thrust, which is great, but also it will increase the self-damage and crash damage resistance. But I'm actually going to pick up Bravado here. And the negative of it is moot, so as long as you're playing with all of the challenge modes on, because every enemy is already an elite or champion. So it doesn't matter. Alright, so we're still not taking down Baby Jugs very quickly. All right, it's Seraph time. Yeah, we are not putting very much damage down on him. So this is going to be a lengthy Seraph fight. Fortunately, with Firefly Body, it ends up being pretty easy to avoid the Lance, but I'm not amazing. Okay, well, as I say that, I'm also not particularly amazing at avoiding his crash damage, as you can see there and there. All right, our shields are down. We are potentially dead here. We are very likely to die here. Yep, that's what I was expecting from that. We just didn't quite get what we needed. Also, I had some bad dodges there. You know, I was talking up how the Firefly Body makes it easy to dodge the lances, and then I took two right to the face. So, Not the greatest run in the world, but a 367 does start off our high score decently well. Go ahead and call this Thermite. That's what I like to call the Thermal Lance run. Okay, so that's going to do it for the first episode. We had one decent run going into it. Like I said, in the future, if I have runs that fall under... realistically, if I have any runs that don't make it to Seraph, I'm probably going to yeet the video unless I do another good run later on in the video. So I don't want to put bad runs up on YouTube. I'll consider this one to be a mediocre run at best. We did at least make it to the Seraph, and it's the first run, so, you know, it's decent. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any feedback for me, let me know in the forms of likes, dislikes, comments, also at Runt9 Plays on Twitter. Again, Nova Drift is going to be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday video at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we got a bunch of other stuff coming out on YouTube as we go through time. But for now, that's going to do it. I'm Runt9, and I will see you later.